turn the keys, the fingertips that reach out to touch them, the string that begs to be bent? Or is it in the notes on a page, a foot to a pedal, the infinite space between imagination and skill? Or is it simply music?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 13th Note podcast, The Art of Mastery. This podcast was designed to talk with many masters across many different things, different positions, and different skills and techniques. And today we are bringing you someone very special. This gentleman is responsible probably for a lot of your memories as a kid. One of those cornerstone moments that you never forget you talk about. And that's the importance about what his position was. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jay Barth. How are you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great, Jeff. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for being here with us. Now, your position in the industry of music entertainment was front of house engineer. Can you just give us a little brief overview what front of house engineer is responsible for doing?
Well, front of house is determined as the audience, basically. And when you go to a concert, you see a number of people out there in the middle or over by the side or somewhere out there with desks in front of them with a bunch of knobs and faders and stuff. And they're the ones that bring it all to you. It's a combination of sound and lights. Of course, I was the sound guy. I did that for well over 30 years. So.
Wow. So what I like to do with our guests is that we're going to take you back to your formative years, especially the age before you went to kindergarten and then from K to 12 and so forth. So first and foremost, you're a native Michigan, right?
That's correct. I was born and raised in Detroit.
Okay. A lot of music.
Ann Arbor. When I was 19, I moved to Ann Arbor. So
okay.
Born and raised in Detroit.
Fantastic. There's Detroit has a rich history of music.
You bet.
And overall, that general area just produced a lot of great American music. Share with us a little bit in regards to, even before you went to school, was there certain things that influenced you in regards to music or anything of that nature?
Well, as a child in Detroit, boy, I was exposed to a lot of stuff from even my youngest days that I remember listening to music. Of course, when I was 10, 11, 12, that's when the British invasion came about, which was very influenced me a lot. I was also, from the day I could hear music, a huge fan of Motown music.
Sure.
And I've probably been to the Motown Museum at least 6 times.
That's great.
Every time I go, it just keeps getting, it's just special. So
absolutely,
I love that sort of thing. And I started playing guitar when I was around 10. My folks got me a little guitar and sent me to lessons.
Yeah.
And by the time I was 12, I was playing in a little band with some guys that were a little older than me. And we did a few jobs. One of our most famous job was at this place called Notre Dame High School in East Detroit. Used to have dance parties every Friday night. And our little band, there was a main band on one stage, and then at the back of the room, they had a little stage with the opening act. And we were the opening act one night for a guy named Bob Seger. So
wow.
when I was 12.
That's crazy. At age 12, you were doing in front of an audience. And this is just 2 years after you picked up the guitar.
Pretty much, yeah.
And this is, what year would you say?
Well, that would have been about 65,
Okay.
66.
So that influence of the British invasion got you inspired, and you were able to, just in a very short time, to be able to perform.
You bet.
Yeah. Would you attribute that to the guitar lessons, or was it just you had this practice and
It
innate?
was it was
Yeah.
a lot of both. Yeah.
Okay.
I
You
had a
you
I had a wonderful guy teaching me,
no.
and another friend in the neighborhood who his name was Robert Gillespie. His nickname
Mm,
was Gigi. And he and I started playing together and jamming together and learning together. And
yeah.
he went on to become, oh, geez, a very, very prolific guitarist around Detroit. He played with um, the art Rob Tyner and the MC5 reunion group. He played
Yeah.
with many tours with Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels. Yeah,
Wow.
or Mitch, it wasn't Detroit Wheels at the time, it was Mitch Ryder, but
Right.
Bob, Robert played all over town. He was a fabulous guitarist, and I sort of took a different route, but we
Right.
started together.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and I remember hearing his name. And
He,
I'm all the way here in Texas.
well, he's in Detroit. In Detroit, he's pretty well known. That's for
Yeah.
sure. So
Well, that's awesome.
yeah.
So when did you first got on to about engineering and sound reinforcement? Was it around the teenage years?
Well, it was a little while after that.
Uh-huh.
I think I was 15, but I had a friend that played in a band, and they rented a little storefront on Dickerson, and they needed somebody to help, and they knew that I played, and I knew which end of the cord plugged into the guitar and which end of the cord plugged into the amp. So
Yeah.
I sort of became their roadie at the time, and they had
Yeah.
there was another fella doing the sound at that time, but I was the roadie, and that's where I started learning how to, that's when I picked it up and began to learn the craft a bit. So
Mhm.
they were that band was called Dobie Zitch,
Hmm.
ironically enough.
Right.
And after a little time, I ended up transforming into being the sound guy. The guy that was the sound guy got another job somewhere else, and there was a time. Oh, geez, I was still 15. The band changed their name to Scarab,
Hmm.
and one of the fellas had an aunt that lived in Pittsburgh, and she knew we went over there, and she knew this fella named Richie Engler.
Hmm.
And in Pittsburgh, the promoting company that did all the concerts and stuff was called the Caesar Engler. And Richie became our sort of agent in the area. And we would get the first time, a couple times I traveled there, I didn't even have my driver's license because I was only 15. But we
Right.
would leave school at 2:00 on a Friday and end up in some bar
Yeah.
around Pittsburgh at 8:00 at night and set up to play. And we did that for some time. That was kind of my first little bit of traveling and whatnot.
Wow. And that's pretty good at mid-teens, around 15.
Yeah, well, and I finally got my driver's license, and I could drive help drive the truck
Sure.
and whatnot. So,
Did you grow up with siblings?
no, well, yes and no. I have one older brother. He's 10 years older. So
Okay.
I used to shine his shoes when he went out for dates for 25 cents, that kind of thing. But
Okay.
he was quite a bit older than me. By the time this stuff all happened, he was out of the house and
Yeah.
in the Air Force somewhere,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, being in the behind the scene thing with music it's a lot of work, a lot of responsibility, so forth. The thing is, you took on the challenge of doing that pretty much into your, music endeavor. Did you have any role modeling about hard work or, work ethics and aptitudes as such from your family members, or where did you pick this up?
Well, I think when you kind of learn it when you're in the rock and roll business,
Uh-huh.
and when you're in or maybe probably any kind of show business to an extent,
Yeah.
and when you're on a rock and roll tour, it's militaristic in a way.
Yes.
When the lights go down, you better be where you're supposed to be, or you're going to be on the bus, and it's not going to be the tour bus.
Wow. Yeah.
So you learn how to be on time.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as calling in sick or,
Mhm.
my tummy hurts, I can't do it tonight.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen.
Right.
You know, I've seen guys sit on buckets with towels around their waist doing
Oh,
shows, but
that's brutal.
you know,
Yeah.
it's just, you know, and you kind of learn that as you go along. You know,
Yeah.
there's of course the days off are a whole nother story, but you
Yeah.
know, the day of the show, you know, you're there when the lights go down, and there's you know,
Right.
even when you're in a club band or whatever, you learn that discipline
Mhm.
from a very early age, and it takes it out, you know, it just goes on with you. So
Right. Okay. So doing this and learning your, chops and the way of the logistics and so forth, what was that apex of that window opening where you stepped through to that major league level?
well
What
I
happened?
well I was after Dobie's Itch Scarab, I was off
Mm,
of it for a little while, and then I started working for some other local bands around Detroit.
mm,
One of them that was you know, a little bit successful was a band called Toby Red.
mm.
And unfortunately, the first drummer just passed away about 10 days ago or something. It was kind of sad,
Oh,
but the first drummer's name was Chris Mazzola. But after Chris left the band, they brought on um, a fellow named Chad Smith, who
mm.
you may recognize from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
So he came in. He came at the same band after I was there. I didn't work with Chad, but they
Mm,
were pretty hot local Detroit band.
mhm.
And there was a couple others that I worked with. I dabbled around with 3 or 4 different ones, and then I finally landed a job with a band called Catfish Hodge. Catfish.
Mm.
And the Catfish band was a very popular band in the time around Detroit. They had a record called The Boogeyman's Gonna Get You. And it was played on CKLW. And I don't know
Yeah.
if you're familiar with CKLW, is the one of the, oh, what's the term I'm looking for? It was one of those huge AM radio stations that really made records back in the day.
Sure.
Um, there was a lady there named Rosalie Trombley.
Mhm.
She was the program director, and you may have heard a song by Bob Seger that was also done by Thin Lizzy called
Mhm.
Rosalie.
Okay.
And that song is written about Rosalie Trombley because she, you know, if she liked your record, boy, you had a big step forward all over the
Right.
place. But Catfish, we were booked by the same agency. It was called Diversified Management Agency in St. Clair Shores, right outside of Detroit.
Mhm.
And it was the same agency that booked Ted Nugent, Bob Seger, Alice Cooper,
Mhm.
the Pleasure Seekers, all the local groups
Yeah.
pretty much were booked. You know, their shows were booked by DMA.
Right.
And we traveled around some of the same circuits that all those other bands did. We'd go to Ocean City, Maryland, and I was kind of in school at the time.
Mm.
And I started college for a little while doing broadcast and theater, and but we'd go to Florida. We did places in Fort Lauderdale, a place in Atlanta, that all the whole same places we all played. Um, and So I did that for a while, and then we played it was early summer 73.
Mhm.
We did a concert at Gallup Park in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They had these free concerts every Sunday afternoon.
Mhm.
And Catfish Band played there. And I met these guys at Kurt Andrews and Marty Priest that had a sound company called Fanfare. Kurt was the sound guy for Alice Cooper, and Marty Priest was a sound guy from a band called Scott Richards' case, SRC. Both were very popular in that day, and they took their gear that they owned. Both of those bands kind of moved forward, and they took the gear that they owned and started Fanfare. Well, they ended up liking what I did with Catfish. They said, you know, we need a guy to go on the road next week. Think you can do
Mm.
it?
Wow.
I said, well, what's it about? What's the gig? He said, well, we're starting out with a leg of tour with Joe Walsh and Barnstorm. I said, well, sounds good to me. Joe Walsh is cool. So,
Yeah.
so a week later, I was on the road with Joe Walsh and Barnstorm, and I started out originally as being the onstage monitor mixer, which didn't last too long. Marty, who owned the company, was front of house, and he had something else to do. So I did the front of house, and another guy came to do the monitors, and so that was like my first kind of really big nationwide touring thing was Joe Walsh and Barnstorm. You can.
Yeah. And what was pay like for that?
Oh, it was nothing. I don't know. I don't think we made $200 a week or something. I don't know.
So a lot of it is for fun.
I got my name on the Joe Walsh "So What" album. So.
Yeah, well, that's huge. Absolutely.
And those were some really fun times. I did them the rest of 73 and up through 74. Yeah. And we had some memorable shows, obviously, with Walsh at the time. We did some stadium things, with CSN and various things. REO Speedwagon was our opening act for about 90% of the show. So I got to know those guys real well. Yeah. And we had one group of shows early, I believe it was early 84, where we were the headliner. Mm-hmm. The second band was this bunch called the Eagles. And the opening act was called the Souther, Hillman, and Furay Band. Huh. I don't know if you're familiar with them. No. But J.D. Souther, one of the best songwriters in history. Yes, I do know him. Richie Furay from Buffalo Springfield and Poco. Oh, wow. Yeah. Chris Hillman from the Byrds, Souther, Hillman, Furay. And they had a drummer by the name of Jim Gordon, who was one of the famous Wrecking Crew guys. And Gordon plays on like Layla, and his discography is huge, but he kind of had some mental issues, and I don't know, I think he killed his mother or something. He was in jail in Canada until he passed away a couple years ago. So. Wow. But anyhow, those shows were magic, because think of all that talent, those three bands on the same stage on every night, for 2 months. It was fabulous. So those were very, very, very memorable times. Oh,
fantastic. Right in the dead smack of, that uprising, counterculture, and the growth of American music. And you're fairly young, early 20s.
Oh yeah. I was 20.
Yeah. So how did you, this technique of running sound, especially front of the house, especially big shows, stadium shows.
Sure.
Did you learn all this on the fly?
Pretty much, Jeff. Yep.
And was there any kind
of... I won't say I never made a mistake or anything like that, but yeah, that's how you do it. It's pretty much on the fly. Later on in my later years, I became, a little bit jaded and made some demands about what I needed in arenas and stuff like that. I was able to write a ticket, but in the first, at the beginning, you just, you did what you had to do,
Yeah. So when you're doing shows during that era, how big was the mix desk?
Oh, geez. Well, do you want to see a picture?
Can you pull one up?
Sure. Let me just go to present here where it says, no, I don't want slides. I want pictures. I'll go to an image file here. And this desk that I'm going to show you is, this was the fanfare desk. We called it Old Faithful. Oh, hang on, I'm going a little slow. Sorry.
No problem. In something like this back in those days, you only had one. You didn't carry a backup with you.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, not at all.
So everything was pretty much skeleton. Exactly what we have is what we're going with.
Pretty much, yeah. In fact, we had why can't I find this darn thing?
It's always like that, isn't it? I want this. Where is it?
It's kind of a famous picture. I'm going to find it here in a second. Okay. But the desk, as we talk, it had 24 channels.
Okay.
It had 4 subgroups, and each subgroup had an octave band equalizer, and we had a third octave bands on the outputs.
So this was pretty much the state of art live sound equipment at that time.
Yeah, kind of. It had every channel had 3-band EQ.
Yeah.
I can't believe I can't find this ridiculous picture right now. I've got it everywhere in my favorites and stuff, and now on the computer it's not showing up.
All right.
But I'm on a mission here.
I know. So let's think this. To be proficient on that desk, and you said, of course, a lot of the trial and error. When you first got into it, I'm assuming you were watching other people, your peer circles and whatnot.
Okay, here's the
there
picture.
it is. There's a picture.
I don't know how to put it up on the screen.
I think I could do this.
But this is our original desk.
Wow.
And so it's 24 channels, 4 subgroups over here.
Yeah.
Actually, it was built by a fella outside of Ann Arbor, a guy named Jim Fackert, and his company was called Custom Audio Electronics.
Yeah.
And he started out making boards like this and another one that we had. Yeah. And he ended up, we used to go to a office supply store and buy these little lights called tensor lamps that had a little gooseneck on them.
Right.
And Jim decided he was going to take that idea, and he created a company called Little Light.
Huh.
And I don't know if you're familiar with Little Light, but there's Little Lights basically on every sound and light board that you can think of nowadays.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Even up into the 90s and early 2000s, I'd go to Japan and you go to the electronics, big super block of electronic stores, and they all had Little Lights. The Japanese didn't copy them until I think the year 2010 or something.
Wow.
So he had this huge company. But this picture is actually, I'm doing KISS at one of these high school gigs that we did, and I can talk further about all this stuff a little later if we want to jump back to that.
Was this when you guys went to the big promotion in the high school with the town giving the key to KISS?
It was around that same time, but it's not that show.
Oh,
this one was a little place in Illinois, and the one you're thinking of is Cadillac, Michigan, which was a very famous one.
Right, big history of that.
Yeah, this was 70. The Cadillac one didn't come about until 76.
A little bit earlier, I think. 75.
This was 75. Well, yeah, 75 was Cadillac. This was like very early in that same year. So we did a number of high school type things, 4 or 5 of them.
Those were big back in the 70s, weren't they?
Well, yeah, it was like they were typically like radio station contest kind of things. Right. The kids could win. And then they'd get us showing up, whether they like it or not. So,
was that considered part of the tour itinerary for the band and the crew?
Yeah, pretty much. Sure.
Okay, so it was just like like today we have an off day, somebody's doing a master class in the University of Texas or something. These are just offshoots from concert venues and those type of things on your itinerary.
No, it was on the. Yeah, I mean, the bus had to go there, so that's where we went.
So I see a reel-to-reel tape machine.
Yeah, that's well. Let me backtrack for a second here.
Sure.
We talked about Joe Walsh. We did the Joe Walsh thing. In fact, there was a night in early '74 when I was still doing Joe Walsh, but I drove the truck all night long to get back to Detroit. Because Marty, one of the co-owners I mentioned before, he had before he did Alice Cooper, he worked with this all-girl band called the Pleasure Seekers in Detroit. And you can look them up. They were one of the early all-girl rock and roll bands. But 3 of them were Quattro sisters.
Oh, wow.
And so it was Arlene and Patty and Susie on bass. And, Susie Quattro became very famous. She went to England and became very famous. So when she came back to the U.S., she contacted Marty to do the sound for this famous show at the Michigan Palace Theater. And it was Susie Quattro headlining. Second band was Blue Oyster Cult.
Wow.
The opening act was this bunch we never heard of before named Kiss. So I get there at 7:30 in the morning, and we go backstage, and there's a wall of marshals with a drum kit on a forklift and 3 guys in black leather jackets sitting there. And I looked at it and I go, Marty, I don't know what the hell's, I was dog tired. I said, I got to go home. He had some other guys there to do the show. I didn't have to stay and do the show. But basically the guys from Kiss, who ultimately became some of my best friends a little later on,
Sure.
But they ended up loving the PA system.
Yeah.
So when they came back to the area, they hired us as their sound company.
Wow.
And that in the early on times, I was the system engineer. Basically, I wasn't mixing the band. So about towards the end of late in 74, we were doing a show in Evansville, Indiana. And the opening act was playing, who was, ironically enough, a guy named Michael Quattro, brother to the sisters we just talked about.
Right.
So Michael's playing, and I hear this boom. I go, what the hell was that? You know, and the band's playing. One of the guys, Sally, Paul Chavarria, comes out to the board. He says, Hot Sam, Moose just blew his hand up. You're mixing tonight. Oh, geez. Okay. So it turns out that Moose, Peter Orquento, a.k.a. Moose, a.k.a. the Beast from the East, he was loading one of these Peter drumstick flare bomb things and blew up in his hand, his hand all up. So that was the first night I was thrust into mixing Kiss. And that went on for 2 years till the end of 76. Wow. And that picture that we showed a moment ago is during a Kiss show.
Right.
And this rig was used up until, I can't remember exactly what month, but it was the early summer of 76 when we got a new console and added a bunch of new equipment to the racks. But you asked about the reel-to-reel deck. That was used for echoes.
No kidding.
So just like in the old days of the recording studios, they had what you called tape slap.
Yeah.
You know, basically you get a set up of Y chords that goes into the left and out of the left and into the right. And this little silver thing that you see on the bottom of that center, I don't know if you can see my mouse when I do this, but the silver thing in the bottom of that rack was one of our friends designed that. It was a motor control. So I could slow down and speed up the tape speed. Wow. And I had little marks on there where I could set it for different echoes of different songs. And the other thing that was real famous about that tape deck is it's what I used to do Gene's bass solo spitting blood routine.
Okay.
So I'd throw the bass guitar in there. Yeah. And I'd take that silver knob and go, and he'd go, and I'd go, slowing it down and speeding it up and whatnot.
Right.
And the funniest thing when late in 76, of course, they got this big management company and they put the sound out to bid, and we lost the whole thing. And they calling me saying, how the hell did you do Gene's bass? Because they took a digital thing.
Right.
And I don't know if you hear a digital thing when you overload it, it's not the same as tape. It's like crackling crap, you know. Right. So they were just all freaked out, and I let them on, said, you just got to know, you know. So that's that's how that thing goes. The other thing that's kind of famous about this particular rack and picture is above that silver thing, there's 2 devices. They're both the same, but they were the original Eventide Clockworks instant phasers, which was actually an analog device at the time. It was an early on phaser. It came out even just a little bit before their famous digital delay came out. And I used that on a few things, particularly like the intro to Strutter. So I'd put it on the drums, and then in Peter's drum solo, which if you listen to Kiss Alive or tour or just you know, YouTube Peter Criss 75 drum solo, you'll hear way too much of those stupid things. When I listen back to it now, it was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, did I put that much of that shit on there?
Well, all of us who grew up on that record, it was iconic moment.
At the
We
time,
all
it was
felt
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. It was definitely, it took us to a different place when we heard Peter's drum solo with that
Yeah.
kind of moving and that kind of surreal swirling thing going
Yeah.
on. As a 12-year-old at that point, we would know what phasing was. We just knew that this was
Yeah.
different.
Well, in that console, I had the drums were all through one of those 4 stereo subgroups, which are sort of behind me in there.
Right.
And basically the whole drum kit went through that phaser thing. And Eddie Kramer actually used a backfeed from my console to the recording truck for the record. So so I got that going for me. I never got any residuals, but if you know, and I've had kids online argue with it. Oh, it's just on the cymbals. I hear it. I said, well, you can think what you want, but I did it. So
right. Wow, what a great piece of history. So let me ask you this, Jay.
Yeah.
During this whole point, as a sound engineer, coming from your teens to 20, most people don't know this, but sound engineers know their desks intimately to the point where if something goes wrong, you're taking the thing apart and diagnosing it. Were you doing that?
Well, pretty much. I mean, there was, each one of those channels could come out, and there was occasionally you would blow an IC or something and have to change it out of the socket. But the most adventuresome situation with this desk was next to the rack. Up above my shoulder, there is another little rack case thing, and that's the power supply.
Okay.
The power supply gives plus or minus 12 volts to the circuitry in the board. And then it had plus or minus 6 volts, I think it was, to the lights inside the board. So the lights behind the meters and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, one day in San Antonio, Texas, the power supply failed.
Oh.
And at that time, we didn't have a spare power supply. We never thought it was, that's just the power supply. What's going to happen to it?
Right.
Well, it failed. And what are we going to do? Well, it's plus or minus 12 volts. I said, can we get 2 batteries? And 2 batteries and some clamps and something to clamp with. So we took 2 batteries out of the limousines.
Oh, wow.
And tied the 2 minuses together. And the 12, one went to the plus 12, one went to the minus 12.
Yeah.
And the console worked. We did the whole show, San Antonio, did the whole KISS show. And it was one of these funky little armory type places, and they didn't have shit for backstage or anything. And the band wanted to they wanted to do what they call an immediate. In other words, they go off the stage into the car to the hotel where they're comfortable. Okay. Of course, they go off stage, they go to the car, there's no batteries. And Simmons is like, what do you mean Hot Sam's got the batteries? Hot Sam's got the batteries.
Oh, man.
They were just totally freaked out. So that's one of our good laughs. Good touring laughs.
Yeah, that's a good story. Great story.
So ever since then, we've carried a spare power supply, and I don't think you'll see any show on the road anywhere that doesn't have one nowadays.
Sure. Hey, life experience, you learn from those.
Well, it's you can lose a channel, but if you use the power supply, or you lose the whole thing. So.
Right. Yeah, no doubt.
So
let me ask in regards to just that quick thinking on your feet type of thing about electronics and so forth. Was this just the evolution of you working as a sound engineer, or did you say, hey, I better get on the good foot and go learn this from a education program? Or
it was pretty much all trial and error.
Yeah.
And of course I would read every kind of sound type magazine and stuff at the time. There was no internet when this picture was taken, and there was no internet, no cell phone. You could grasp onto an occasional magazine. I think what was it? Was it Sound Recording? There was a recording magazine that went back to the 60s or something, the only one. And so I would read up stuff. A lot of the things that we utilized came from at some point the studio,
Mhm.
especially in some of our forward years. I might be I might be able to find another picture of the board that we switched to in '76. If you want to
Yeah.
dump this one out, and I'll go to another one here.
Yeah. I think most folks, and let me just interject real quick about the overall responsibility of sound and engineering from front of the house. Not
Sure.
only you have to, know acoustic in this environment and setup and, allocations and so forth, but the depth and the knowledge you have to have in electronics it's just unbelievable.
But to be honest, Jeff, I was never really that guy.
Okay.
I never really had the, it wasn't me that was the electronic guy. I had an inkling for music, and I think that's what helped me as a front of house guy more than anything else, is my inkling for the music, and structure and whatnot. I've had guys that I love dearly could take that shit apart, rebuild it, fix anything about it, tell you about the capacitors and this and that, stuff that I didn't know anything about, but they couldn't mix a shake.
Gotcha. Yeah.
They got chances. In fact, there was one guy that I took over from, and I kind of felt bad with it. He's the guy you would want next to you all in the foxhole all day long.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't his thing. He just didn't hear it.
I gotcha.
He could build it, fix it, change it. He just didn't hear it. And and I think that I was blessed with that.
Yes.
And that's kind of where I came from.
Yeah. That innate talent, that the good ear, those sort of things are God's gift. I believe that, because I think I see that in performance as well. And for you in your position in front of house to be able to identify quickly and be able to say, hey, we're going to make a decision here and make a decision there. I think that's crucial, because you are making, like I said in the beginning, that this experience for somebody out in the audience is going to be a cornerstone of their memory, most likely a lifetime, that they talk about.
Sure.
Yeah.
And those guys that I described, I have the ultimate respect for them.
Yeah.
Because, I can't do what they did,
Right.
And,
well, we all have different talents.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And for you to also coming up on the time when festival concerts were huge, coming in from everything from Woodstock to Atlantic Pop, right? Those type of things. How did that fare in regards to your first big stadium show, our outdoor show, in being young? Did you have to really change your mindset? How did you basically run that show? Share your experience with us on that.
Well, I put up, this is our new console in 76.
I'll get that in.
I keep trying to find a picture with the rack, but I don't have the rack. This was also made by our friend Jim Fackert. This is the updated console. It was 32 channels and 8 subgroups, and it had parametric equalization, which was big deal back then. Parametric, the difference in that first console, we had 3 bands of EQ, and each band had a little switch, little 3-way switch. So the one in the middle was like 500, 1K, 2K. The one on the bottom was 50, 100, 250, something like that.
Yeah.
So you could switch frequency centers. With a parametric equalizer, you can fully sweep them to where your frequency is. Not only sweep it, but then also change the bandwidth. So you could have a narrow peak or a wide peak. And that was a big deal. Shoko also came out with a parametric board right around the same time. They called it the super board. And so that was we had some extra outboard equipment here too, but I didn't find the picture right away. I should have built a stack. I wasn't sure how we'd go through here, but it's okay.
That's all right. No, you're sharing with a lot of the interesting point of views.
Yeah, and this is the console that would have been there when we went into the arenas, or not arenas, but stadiums of '76. You know, we did Roosevelt Stadium outside New York. We did Atlanta Fulton Stadium. We did the big show at Anaheim, which was a famous show. And most of these shows had Bob Seger on them. Some of them had some other bands too. But this is when I actually, that summer of 1976 is when I really got to know Bob and the band and everybody and so at the end of this Destroyer leg, end of September, 1st of October or whatever, that leg of the tour stopped, and the big management company, Glickman Marks, put it out to bid and found somebody else. And at the same time, Seeger's guy, who was British, got deported. And so they hired me to be their sound guy, and Fanfare became their sound company. So I was there I was with Bob for 16 years. So and Fanfare was with them for up until 1980, I think it was 83. We switched. Fanfare kind of went out of business, and we went over to a company called Electrotech. So anyhow,
okay, all right. The shows you've described are huge shows. I mean, these are shows that people remember, and they've always talked about the best concerts, because back then I think the excitement was very different. Tickets were very affordable at that point as well, and the music was just incredible. And I think those things. So I'm going to ask you a question in regards to when the band started to get hot. Let's say, like the evolution of the 74 to 76 in that run with Kiss. How much pressure does that put on the crew as you start to see that the arena is going crazier and crazier, and in the dates are start to add at the same location consecutively? How much does that affect someone like you?
Well, it's, at the time, I mean, once again, we were just, I was 22 or 21 by then when it started really growing. And we'd work 4 or 5 nights a week, and it was you were just so dog tired. But when we got on the bus, it was a time when we were all trying to make the bombs louder and the sound louder and the lights brighter and the fire hotter. And it was I have a saying, Jeff, that I've used a few times in some of these interviews. I was there when they had leather and studs before it became spandex and sequins. So around about Destroyer time and the big management and the new and the fancy sets and everything, they changed the outfits to be spandex and sequins. But those leather outfits were, that was kind of the spirit of the thing, and it describes not only the band, but the whole scene at the time was leather and studs, I mean, when we get to first of all, understand that the outfits, the leather outfits would have, especially in the summertime, would have to be the last thing onto the truck. And then they would have to be the first thing out of the truck, and they would have to stay outside the building as long as possible to air out, so to speak, because you couldn't put them inside or you couldn't stand it.
Oh, I can imagine that.
I don't think that Febreze was invented quite by then.
And I don't even think that would have helped with the tenacity of that touring schedule that the band had, and just only one set of outfits, if I remember correct.
Well, I think, they might have had some, but pretty much, they might have had some little things here and there that were spares, but it was predominantly, that was it. So.
Right. And Sean Delaney was driving the band in a Volkswagen or in a station wagon.
There was times, Sean was a piece of work, but he was definitely a character, but he, with dance moves and this and that, he was kind of their guru of a lot of that stuff.
So when you're working in a dynamic of a team like this, everybody has synergistically, kind of put their heads together and so forth, right?
Sure. You bet.
Because it's a team environment thing.
You bet. Yeah.
So I'm taking that you got pretty close with the crew and everybody, every act that you worked with, that it has its own clique. what is one of the things that you would say that this particular experience really helped me understand about what I do? Do you have that moment?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it just comes back to what we said earlier about it being militaristic and how,
Yeah.
I mean, a chain is as strong as its weakest link. So, you can't, if, they could never play anything I couldn't screw up. So,
Yeah.
and, and the same thing with the lighting guy, if the light hits them with a solo and, you better have the solo turned up at the same time. So it's a team spirit thing, and turning solos up at the same time is kind of an adventure too when you're doing big arenas. And I might be jumping forward here, but one of the things, especially later in my career, that I could kind of demand, so to speak, is that I always wanted my mixer to, especially in arenas, to be 90 feet from the stage.
Okay.
So I didn't have to be in the middle, way in the back. The lighting guys do that if they want. I don't know. And it comes from when you're tapping your foot and you got a solo that starts on the one.
Yeah.
If you're in the back of the hall and you turn it up when you hear it, you're late.
Yes.
You're very late.
Yeah.
So you get to learn a certain anticipation to make sure that things are on time.
Right.
And by keeping your distance the same all the time, and your foot's tapping there, and I know when that thing starts on the one, I'm right about the 3 3/4 turning it up.
Yeah,
I'm hearing it. So I got to be a little bit ahead to be on time.
Sure.
So that's something that you learn as you go along. I learned very early on. The bigger the rooms got, the bigger the gigs got, the more the anticipation was necessary. And like I said earlier, I don't think I never made any mistakes, but I learned from it. So.
Well, it's only a mistake if you leave it.
Well, that's true. Do it again or something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I'm going to go back to the question I had in regards to open top stadiums, big festivals, so forth.
Sure.
When you're going into that for the very first time, I'm sure it's a different whole aptitude to go out there. Was it intimidating, and how do you adjust to that being something so different that sound goes out and doesn't come back?
Well, it's certainly intimidating, and fortunately I had some experience even back with Joe Walsh days. We did a number of stadiums, with like Crosby, Stills, and Nash and stuff like that, big shows. So I kind of knew a little bit of what to expect in that respect. Respect, yes.
Yeah. And how big is a big thing for, like, say, because of that open environment, that you're on stage volume, like, especially a band that's guitar driven, like Joe was, like Gene, like Paul and Ace, they like it loud. But where is it?
Much.
Yeah.
But you know what? They never really, they always, Ace was funny. Hey, Curly, I can't hear my guitar. I need another Marshall. But he never hit. Ace had 2 stacks. Paul had 1. And Gene had SVT heads, and for the most part, he used SVT 8x10 bottoms until 76. He, at one point at a rehearsal or something, we plugged in a couple of our JBL 4560 boxes, basically a little PA horn. And he loved it because it kind of hit him in the back of the, he felt it.
Right.
Much different. The horn loading was much different than the front loaded 8x12s, which give you a big fat round sound, but they don't hit you back.
Yeah.
Gene loved that hitting him in the back thing. So he used those for a long time. I don't know. I'm not sure when he quit using them after we left, but we built a whole set for him, and he loved them.
Right.
You can see them in a lot of the pictures later on. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've noticed definitely with, such a band like Kiss, they always promote a lot of equipment for the visual effect.
Sure.
Excuse me. But at the same time, I don't know if that's truly what they're really running, because I've been in the business long enough to see what you see in the front is not what they're using half the time.
Oh yeah, they never used any of that crap. Even even with I mean, when my years with Cheap Trick, I mean,
Yeah.
Rick's it was a Fender Deluxe Reverb this big, you know, sitting behind that his sound came from. He did have one Marshall cabinet
Yeah.
on stage, and but yeah, Kiss they were live and through Marshalls, and I'm not saying it was quiet. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but it was just, you know, it was 2 stacks for Ace and one stack for Paul.
And what did you do for miking? Did you use a 57 and drop it on a corner, or how did you go about it?
You know, I would say at the time it was primarily 57s on guitars.
Yeah.
At that time, yeah.
Okay.
We did use sometimes a couple different Electro Voice microphones, RE15s, RE10s we would experiment with. But, you know, there's something about a 57 that it just gives you something that is hard to describe. You know, I did earlier this year when we went on our way to Florida, we went to Muscle Shoals, and they still do some recordings in there. And, you know, you look at the snare drum, there's a 57, you know, it's like,
wow. Sure.
So,
As a matter of fact, that I think that's just the way it should be, because it's always captured the character, the warmth.
I can even remember doing, and you know what? I can't remember. I when doing Kiss Alive, Eddie Kramer brought his own kick drum mic, which was an Electro Voice 666.
Wow.
And it's the same microphone that he used on Led Zeppelin, and he loved that microphone for kick drums. He used it on, I mean, you listen to what's the famous Led Zeppelin drum intros? I'm trying to think of the name. Was it Kashmir?
Yeah.
That's same microphone that's on Kiss Alive.
Wow.
But I also remembered later days that we did that with the record plant Black Truck, and a good friend of mine named Dave Hewitt, who was a very, very famous remote recording engineer.
Yeah.
Later on in time, in fact, during Live Bullet and some other places that I've worked with Dave, he'd take a 57 and put it on the kick drum. Wow. And mix it in with whatever else was going on, because he got that snap on that kick drum with the 57.
Yeah.
So I tell these kids nowadays, you know, they think you're nuts because they all want this big, I want this big microphone, and I, you know, trust me, it's not
right. There's such art to using microphones.
Not necessarily what you want. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure you were at the point where the Canadian band Rush became the opening act for Kiss during that period as well.
Yes.
So they throw on their stuff. Was it your responsibility to make sure they're taken care of as well as an opening act?
No, they had their own guy,
Okay.
And a wonderful guy, and he's still a friend. He lives up, you know, up there, and those guys became very, very good friends of ours to this day. But one of our guys that's was working with Kiss back in the day, Craig Blazier, he kind of left the tour after a while, but his name's on the Alive album as monitor engineer.
Right.
But Craig went on to become Rush's like tour manager, road manager, show road manager, and was with them for years and years and years. So I'd go out and see those guys every time they toured, and, you know, good friends, wonderful, wonderful guys. And we miss Neil, but the rest of them are still around. So
yeah. Well, we all as fans miss Neil. No
yeah.
So,
I got a drum head that they all signed for me.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And Neil put it at the bottom of the drum head. He wrote a private. He says 40 years of friendship, and all I get is a broken drum head. And
so he's so funny.
I cherish that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So when we were on a tour like that, where you have a working, you know, opener, sometimes a mid guy, you're only responsible for your main act, right?
Well, I mean, at that time, I was responsible for the sound system too, so I had to make sure everything was right. They had their own guy to mix.
Okay.
You know, but our crew, you know, changed. set the mics, and our two stage guys just set stuff up, and I made sure everything was good for them and that it all worked and everything. But they had a guy that actually mixed.
Right.
So
let's look at the day of show logistics. You're pulling in early in the morning before noon, and everybody start to
way
load out.
before.
Is the day before?
No, way before noon.
Okay. So a lot of times, what would you say? Average time rolling in is what, 7, 8 in the morning?
Yeah.
So that's a tough, long day you have ahead, because showtime's not even going on till a lot of times after 8.
You're not out until 1 in the morning.
Right.
And then you got to get in the bus and go do it again the next day. So
yeah. Especially a band with an itinerary that is just, work and work and work. And that's, I remember how the 70s and early 80s were. You saw bands really didn't have time off.
Yeah.
Right.
So we had no. When I first some of the first, like in '84 times with Kiss, we were driving the truck. There was 2 of us for a short time, and then we got a tour bus. I mean, it was pretty brutal. It was, and those guys, I do give Kiss guys a lot of credit. I don't know of any band that ever worked harder that they did at that time. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I've read a lot of people's opinions and heard a lot of interviews, and that's always been the same. The reason why Kiss became what they were, they were one of the hardest working bands.
And they wrote some songs. You got to give credit for songs. Sure. I mean, it's hard to go to a sporting event without hearing one of their anthems playing to get the crowd going and stuff.
Right.
I mean, some of the songs have been iconic. So but boy, they'd work 4 or 5 days a week, and then if they had a day off, they'd be doing an interview or a photo shoot or a recording session or something.
Right.
I mean, they worked really a lot. So
So let me just wrap this a little bit up about the logistics of let's say when we're doing the Kiss show, Cobo Hall 75, when you're setting up something like that. How many mics are you throwing on for Peter's kit? How is Gene going DI? Give us a rundown.
Geez. I mean, of course, pretty much a mic on every drum.
Yeah.
And couple overheads, hi-hat. Yeah. Gene would be mic'd and DI'd.
Okay.
Guitars, just 1 mic on each guitar, really. Mm-hmm. It was never anything fancy or over the top that we did at that time.
So anything echo or anything that was like octavers or anything like that were done in the front of the house?
They didn't. They never used pedals or anything. They were moving around too much for any of that crap. They just, turn it up and play. There was none of that. It was, and I didn't really grease it up. I other than vocals, we'd be greasing the vocals, and of course, Gene's solo and the drum solo and stuff like that. But no, we didn't mess with the guitars at all, really.
So when this goes on tour, everything's flowing, then it becomes a rhythm. But did you guys do a pre-production meeting, like right before you go out on the road and sit down and go, hey, this is the show, this is the set list, and that type of meeting?
Yeah, later on we did. I mean, we did a big rehearsal thing we had rehearsals in England when we went to England in 76. Mm-hmm. We went to, they call it Shepperton Studios, a big film studios with a big, huge hangar sound stage that we set up and did, we rehearsed with our European crew and European sound and lights and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when we came back, there was a little bit of a break. And then we went to airfield north of New York. What's it called now? Something with an N. Newburgh, New York. There's an old airfield there where we set up in a hangar and did the whole destroyer thing.
Wow.
But before that, we didn't do anything. Those are the 2 with them that we did. And then, later on with, it depends who you're with. Seger tours, we would set up at the Michigan, the Fox Theater in Detroit and rehearse.
So that's like a run through, get fine tune.
Yeah.
How many days would you guys invest into doing that before they actually go on?
It depends. I mean, I think with both of the Kiss things that I just mentioned, and I think 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
The British one was only like 2.
Yeah.
The Destroyer thing was a little longer because they brought out all this stuff,
Right.
for Destroyer. They changed the lights all around. They had these design guys, and they had these spark things that went off, and
Right.
a bunch of, they tried a bunch of special effects and stuff that took some time to get warmed
Sure.
up. So,
All right. So let me shift this over to now. Once you start going over to Bob Seger camp,
yeah,
his music, of course, is dynamically different, and
Sure.
his band is different. How big of a difference in sense of for your responsibility now coming from just miking 2 guitars, bass, and drums to his band?
yeah.
With
Well,
horns and such.
I mean, I had known the band quite a bit. He really didn't have horns back then. It was just alto.
Uh-huh.
He didn't have a horn section when I was with him.
Yeah.
That stuff didn't come about till the early 2000s or something. And I left in 93. So I was there from
Right.
76 to 92 was my tenure
Right.
with Bob. But we had girls. We had
Mhm.
girls. We had an organ and a piano and a Wurlitzer piano for turn the page, little Wurlitzer electric things.
Right.
And a drum kit, and
Hmm.
typically 2 guitars.
Yeah.
And Bob, so 3 guitars and bass.
Mm.
So it was pretty extensive. So
Right. And when you doing all these piano bits, I mean, everything's DI'd into the desk. Am I correct?
yeah. Piano, organ, of course, is mic'd.
Yeah. Okay.
But the piano is direct.
Right.
And I should take that back. Really early on, we had a real grand piano in 1980.
Yeah.
And we used to go through a lot of hoops. We had what we call a help and still pickup.
Yeah.
On it.
I know. I actually know it.
You know the device. We had a help and still, and we also had a couple of microphones.
Yeah.
So we used the grand piano in reality for a whole tour. It was an adventure. So
Right.
And then, I forget the brand name that came out. That the first guys that made a piano that everybody could hang with. Trying to remember the name now, but we went electric after that.
Right.
So.
And definitely that's more manageable than, slaving around a piano.
Yeah.
I'm assuming when you were using acoustic pianos, you didn't actually drag the entire piano. You were renting it from local venues.
Oh no, we dragged that thing around.
Really?
Had a tuner in every day. It was a total pain in the ass.
I can imagine.
The only bigger pain in the ass is a Mellotron, but
really? Was Mellotron very temperamental?
Totally.
Yeah.
Joe Walsh had the Mellotron that I worked with. And the other thing that was temperamental was that little Wurlitzer piano. I don't know if you're real familiar with those things, but they use a little like a tine, like a metal tine that kind of vibrates in there and stuff. And we used to have to carry 3 of them to have one work every day.
Wow.
And then we'd have technicians come out, and there's always something going on with the Wurlitzer. They were not real roadworthy. So there was sometime later on after I left, he quit doing the Wurlitzer and just did it on the piano. So
right. And definitely technology as start to expand, and then things were replaced with much better. But I can just imagine those days that everything was analog, everything was organic, everything was hands-on. That's so much fun.
Yeah, we did well, in the 80s we started getting a little digital reverb and digital stuff, so grease things up a little bit. So it grew throughout the 80s.
So tell me about this, Jay. When you're dialing in a sound, let's say a great guitar solo or a great saxophone solo, them being 2 different instruments, although have similar crossover frequencies, what are the things you look for to get that out to the audience?
Oh, good question. I mean, you kind of want to know what the sound is like, and a lot of times you work with the player, and you listen to the records, and you get it the way you like it, and from there, it's just turning it up and down after that so much,
Gotcha.
A lot of times, it's it goes back to what I said before about balancing music and having,
Mhm.
understanding what you're doing with the musicality of the song.
Right.
The biggest mistake I see young people make nowadays is the kick drum. I've
Really?
I've never seen
Yeah.
kick drum on a marquee, but I can't tell you how many shows I've gone to where the kick drum is so stupidly loud,
Right.
it takes away from the everything else.
Yeah.
And, you know, almost 90% of popular music is driven by the snare drum, not the
Yeah.
kick drum. And that get me wrong, there's AC/DC that'll go boom, stat, where they're
Right.
equal. But most of the stuff is on the snare.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
kick
Yeah.
is that thing that just kind of sits behind the bass guitar and gives you a little bit
Mm.
of this and maybe every once in a while, but it's not overpowering everything else in the mix. It's,
Yeah.
when you do that, you've lost it. And unfortunately, I hear that so much when I go out these
Sure.
days. So
Right.
I don't know
And
if it's the influence of hip hop or what it is, but this obsession with bass and the bass drum is, in my opinion, highly detrimental.
right. Is it just too high up on the mix, you think?
Pretty much, yeah.
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 Yeah. I think what it is people at certain generations were influenced by the beat. In other words, they think that
Yeah.
the beat is what drives all songs, and it's not always the case.
No,
Yeah.
far from it. Far
Yeah.
from it. So
You write songs, Jay?
no, I've never done
I'm really surprised
it.
because it seems to be you have such great appreciation for
Well,
songs.
yeah, maybe I'll try it one
Yeah.
in my old age. I'll see if I come up with something.
Yeah, there you go. Keep doing that. So
Yeah,
we're going to start wrapping this up because we're a little over an hour. I want to thank you so
I'm
much for
sorry. Yeah,
sharing your
I
knowledge.
talk too much, so
No. You are sharing. This is what the beauty about doing this type of
yeah.
podcast and interview with someone like you, that you have this incredible experience
Well,
in
maybe
everything.
we could do it again and talk about some of the other 7 Hall of Famers I've toured
Yeah. Well, we
with.
definitely know in your description that you've worked with so many people.
Yeah,
I know my wife saw your roster of clients that you've worked with, and she's a huge fan of Motown,
yeah,
huge fan of Aretha Franklin. So she
yep.
was like, "Wow, this is going to be incredible to hear
Yeah.
somebody who's worked the sound
I
and
was
get that to the
three
audience."
years with Aretha. That was a lot of fun. So,
Yeah, she definitely moves the room. There's no question.
well, she
Yeah.
was the queen of soul. There's no doubt about it.
Right,
There's no doubt about it. She
but
was funny because she was competitive, boy. If
well, I bet.
she'd hear somebody, she'd hear some lady sing some song that she thought was a good song. She'd go, "Let me have at that."
Oh, that's great.
Let me try that one.
Yeah, yeah. I love Aretha. I love her spirit. I
Yeah,
love her voice,
yeah,
But then also the guys you work with, Bob's incredible singer. There's no doubt in
yep.
my mind. And was there any tricks to really bring that out to the audience?
Just keeping, like I said, you never hear kick drum on the marquee. So when you're
Yeah,
doing a sound check and I did a lot of great singers. I mean, I did
yeah.
Aretha, I did Rod Stewart,
Yes.
Bob Seger, Robin Zander,
Xander, yeah.
Brian Howe, who was with
Wow.
Bad Company, and I mixed him with Ted Nugent, the
Wow.
Penetrator tour.
Yeah.
I mean, these are some of the best singers in popular music history,
Yes.
And the thing is, that's the name on the marquee. So when you're doing a
Right.
sound check, the
Right.
number one goal is that voice.
Yeah.
Number one. There's no guitar, no kick drum, no nothing that's more
Mm.
important than that voice.
Yes. Amen to that.
So,
And when you're doing a live mix, are you taking a similar philosophy like a studio engineer where we're looking at 2 speakers right, left, and how we're going to fit placements and things of that
it
nature?
it really, Jeff, it really depends on the venue. I mean, there's
Okay.
not a lot of that you get away with in arenas, though.
Right.
Nowadays, with these line arrays and ways that you can digitize things, you can definitely
Right.
create space. And I did some little things just to pull a little bit of space apart in the mix. Not,
Right.
you could never put the guitar all the way over there or,
Yeah.
you weren't making Beatle records, you know.
Gotcha. Yes.
You're in an arena and you want everybody to hear everything. So you could
Yeah.
kind of create a little bit of separation with panning and stuff,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
and you could do a special effect every now and then. You could make something go back and whiz back and forth
Mhm.
if you wanted to. But
Right.
as a whole, basically just, you know, a little bit of separation and spread, not really,
Yeah.
not really, you know, we weren't making records, we're
Right.
mixing shows. So.
Gotcha. So I'm going to wrap up with this question for you,
Sure.
sir. Because you're what we consider OG front of the house. You were there when everything was hands on. Everything was what you give is what you get out of it.
Yeah.
Then came the advent of the digital technology and automation and so forth. How was that transition for you?
Well, my career kind of ended at the beginning of the digital revolution.
Mhm.
So, I mean, when Yamaha came out with their BM1D, I was one of the first guys to get certified on it, but I never toured with it.
Okay.
I never toured really with a digital console. I go into these churches now,
Mhm.
and it's like I shake my head and I shake, you know, it takes me a little while to get used to it. And they're all kind of do the same thing, all in a little different way. So,
Right.
so it takes me a little bit to get in. But on the other hand, it's just amazing what you can do now.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a gate and a compressor and effects on every single channel.
Right.
You know, I can totally control all the dynamics in ways that I could never dream about before. And so that's kind of fun for me to go to these churches and do some of that stuff. And,
Sure.
you know, but kids nowadays, they come in with their thumb drive, you know, and they plug it in and all the shit goes right where they want it. You know,
Yeah.
we do these stadium shows and you had to write down 3,000 knobs. You had to put them all back in the same place.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays they come in with a thumb drive. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, kids nowadays, Jeff.
Right. Well, the irony is also too is what happens if that thumb drive is corrupted? Then they're screwed.
Well, I mean, you know, smart ones have two thumb drives.
That's right. Always back up.
That's right.
See, we learned that
Just
from
like
the power
supply.
Right.
Two
Sir,
thumb
it's
drives.
been so awesome to learn about your history and your experience. I think you shared with us so many nuggets of goodness.
Well,
in
it's
this
been a lot of
interview.
fun. Maybe we can do it again and do the last half of the
Yeah.
last half of the adventure.
Yeah, I would love to have you back and we continue on with this.
Sure.
What would be the thing that you would recommend for a youngster who's interested in doing what you do?
Well, I think you listen to music and listen to the composition and listen to what's going on, and not just necessarily, you know, what the kids at school are listening to, but go back and listen to Frank Sinatra. You know, listen to Motown, listen to the British Revolution stuff. Listen to those things, and listen to where the parts are and how they come together and where it is, and think about who you're mixing for, and bring all that stuff together.
Yeah, that's great advice. Excellent. Okay, Jay, stay tuned. Just
All
stay
right.
here. I'm going to play us out, and I want to thank everyone out there who joined us on the live stream on the Art of Mastery 13th Note podcast. Jay Barth, thank you, sir. We will definitely
Cheers.
find another date and schedule you in, and we go deeper in the other adventures that you also have.
Sure.
Yeah, we look forward to it. So just stay put, and
right,
I'm going to
Jeff.
say goodbye to everyone.
Sounds
This will
good.
be streaming on redpills.tv on Sunday. And also, this is on X and also on LinkedIn. If you want to share, please. And also like and subscribe. And other than that, thank you so much for everyone to tune in on our podcast today. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.